Congratulations. Suddenly you're rich. The price of silver, the price of gold have skyrocketed. We've dreamed about this day, right? We have gold. You know, we hear these numbers of like $15, $20, $50,000 per ounce. Silver, we hear about $100 per ounce. We hear about $85 per ounce. What about $600 or even $1,000 per ounce? Look, guys, it's not out of the question, right? The situation could get so bad with the US dollar that literally the price of gold, the price of silver, the price of platinum go through the roof. Numbers that we can't even imagine. And while we think this might be a dream scenario for us, are we prepared? Because it could turn into a real nightmare. There's a number of factors that we all need to think about. We need to be prepared if indeed the system gets to the point where it's fallen apart, where the prices measured in dollars, measured in fiat, measured in unicorn fart dust, right, get that high that we want to be prepared. Because while it's easy to dream about that and to believe that we've prepared ourselves, if we haven't actually mentally and have a plan in place of what we'll do, it could turn into a real nightmare. A couple big keys to consider, right? Number one, what you want. Why do you own silver? Why do you own gold? Why do you own platinum? To protect yourself, right? To protect yourself in the event of one of these big catastrophic type events. And if we look back on history, we know those events happen, okay? But there's more than just precious metals to consider, right? You want to consider food. You want to consider shelter. You want to consider security, right? Are you going to be safe, right? Because we don't want to talk about the worst case scenarios, but that could become a very unsafe environment. You want to have family and friends. It's so important. Right? What's it all worth without your family and your friends anyway? And people can help each other. That's what you guys do a lot on this channel. That's what you guys do a lot of in these live streams, is help each other. So one of the, think about your primary needs first, right? Food, family, shelter, friends, security. Your health is very important as well. You want to keep yourself as healthy as possible, because without your health, you don't have anything. Okay? Now, can it happen? Can we get into a situation? I mean, people say this all the time, right? Don't you hear it all the time? Like, you don't want to have a situation where there's $10,000 gold. You don't want to be around in a situation where you have $600 silver. Well, talk to the people in Weimar, Germany. Talk to the people in Venezuela right now. Talk to people in Argentina. Talk to people in many of the African countries that have had hyperinflation. It can certainly happen. And yes, it does lead to a certain amount of social unrest within those countries. So when we think it sounds crazy, if we look back on history, every fiat money system, every paper money system, every one of these, right? This is paper, right? Or electronic. Anything that's not been tethered to real money like silver and gold has failed. And when it fails, how many Confederate dollars here in the United States, how many Confederate dollars does it take to buy an ounce of silver or an ounce of gold for that matter? Ask someone who was around right at the end of the Civil War. They'll tell you they were using Confederate dollars for wallpaper, okay? So it does and will happen. Somebody sent me a real interesting quote just earlier today. It said that when empires fail, it happens quickly. And I don't want to scare anybody. And I'm not saying that, I want it to happen. I don't want it to happen. I happen to live here in the United States. We don't want bad things to happen, but we've got to look at history and we got to look at what's going on and be prepared. So the scenario where gold and silver become very valuable, right? Not measured in fiat money, not measured in that, unicorn fart dust, right? paper money, electronic money, whatever, anything that's not tethered to gold and silver, we don't care. We want to know the value of the ounces of silver, the ounces of gold. And when it goes crazy, when the value shoots up, it's going to be kind of a good, traumatic experience for you. Maybe we won't see it. Possibly, and some people think likely we will. So you want to be prepared, and you want to make sure that if you convert any of your silver, any of your gold into something else, that you're doing it in an advantageous way and that you have a plan, that you've thought about it, okay? Because if you're just reacting to emotion, okay, if you just make these decisions based on fear or elation or anything else, there's a much higher probability that you can make a big mistake. Did I get back to this scenario? Suddenly you're rich. Suddenly, right? All those ounces of silver. Maybe you've collected some gold, maybe some platinum, right? Neil, out in our friend Neil, out in Cali, and suddenly platinum's $40,000 an ounce. 60,000. I know you're saying, Ron, you're talking crazy. That's never could happen. Absolutely, it could happen. What are you going to do, right? Remember, measure your precious metals, especially under that scenario, in ounces and value. A couple things you can do when it happens. Number one, do you want to exchange? Do you want to convert some of your metal into other assets? Probably, because we're probably going to get to a point where the relative value of silver, of gold, of platinum are so good that there's going to be some attractive deals, right? But you want to buy other real things, like real estate, maybe a house, okay? Maybe some farmland, maybe some machinery, maybe some oil leases, anything real, right? When the exchange for the precious metals for what you're getting is attractive. Like right now, let's talk about houses. A decent little house, right? And any house is good. But let's just, for example's sake, say a nice little house in St. Louis where I live could cost you 10,000 ounces of silver. All right, about, let's say, $250,000. If we get to a situation, and this could happen, where the value of that silver goes up so much, you could possibly be buying houses for 1,000 ounces of silver, maybe for 500 ounces of silver. If you're looking to buy gold, silver, or platinum, do yourself a favor and check out Pimbex, the online precious metals bullion dealer and sponsor of Ron's Basement. I was a happy customer before they offered to support the channel. You'll find they have the best prices, quality, and service. I think Pimbex is best, and you will too. And be sure to tell them that you're from Ron's Basement. The guy on Arcadia Economics, I'm forgetting his name. Darn it. The nice little guy that lives in, the big guy, whatever. Big guy, smart guy, entertaining guy that lives in Israel. I think he made a video about people buying houses for 100 ounces of silver. I think in the Weimar, Germany, during that horrible hyperinflation they had right before World War II, people were buying houses for 10 ounces of silver. I mean, it is absolutely crazy, but you want to make sure that you're making exchanges, you're converting your metal for other real assets. What you don't want to do, this is just my opinion, right? We get to the situation, you're going to have your own plan. But what I personally would caution you against doing is converting any of that metal back into fiat currency, back into the currency that's being debased. Because at this point, right, we already know the dollar has lost 97% of its value since the Federal Reserve came into existence. If we get into that situation, you do not want to convert your metal back into the fiat currency or whatever it may be. Unless something comes around that you feel confident is tethered and is real, maybe a new currency that's backed by real assets. But you don't want to fall into this, oh, I bought this silver for $24 an ounce, Now it's $75 an ounce. I'm going to convert it all back into paper money because you're just going back into this. Now you do whatever you want, but I would personally caution against doing that. Stocks. People ask me all the time, should I, when the price of the metals goes through the roof, should I buy stocks? Maybe consider buying some stocks only in companies that own real assets. Maybe oil companies, right? Mining companies. If the company owns a lot of assets and has very little debt, then you can consider it. Talking about debt, let's talk about debt, because I get this question all the time. What about if the price of silver and gold goes through the roof and you have some debt? Should you pay the debt off? Generally, I would say absolutely yes, especially if it's any type of debt that has a floating rate, like credit card debt in particular. Credit card debt, the rate gets adjusted with whatever the prevailing interest rates are. And if we get into a hyperinflationary environment and your silver and gold are going through the roof, the price of your silver and gold are crazy, right? Likely what's going to happen with credit card debt that you may have is that rate is going to go crazy as well. They're already crazy. What, 25, 26%? I don't have any credit card debt, so I don't follow it. Now, fixed rate debt. What if you have a mortgage on your house at 3%? Okay? And it's a $200,000 mortgage, and we're in a hyperinflationary environment. I cannot believe I'm going to say this, but you might want to consider just keeping that debt and holding on to your metals, because that debt level will be inflated away. It's similar to what the Federal Reserve is trying to do right now with the national debt. So in that situation, you might want, if it's a fixed rate, right? Mortgages that are a fixed rate at 3%, a low rate, hey, because 10 years later, that $200,000, that might be what you're earning in your job in a month, right? I know all this seems hard to understand, right? I remember my mother-in-law telling me that when she first got married to my father-in-law, who was a wonderful man, I love him dearly, that when he made $10,000 a year, and they did very well, okay, but when he started making $10,000 a year as a salary, she thought they were rich, okay? And the same thing with my mom and dad, same thing with anybody during the 60s or the 50s. So to think now that, we could be making $200,000 a month, well, that might be peanuts if we get into a hyperinflationary environment. What about electronic silver and gold? Look, in a situation where ETFs, any of the other electronic versions, you'll want to have some actual metal, because if you don't own it, you don't hold it, you don't own it, right? If you don't hold it, you don't own it. So it's critical, guys, absolutely critical, right, in this situation that you have some physical metal that you own in your possession. Be prepared, because when the day comes, and it can happen quickly, real quickly. I know it feels like it's never going to happen. Hey, we just had another bank fail over the weekend. These things can happen very quickly. It's like Hemingway said. They asked him, how did you go broke? How did you go bankrupt? He said it was a very gradual process, and then it just happened. And same thing with empires, right? It just happens quickly. I don't want it to happen. You don't want it to happen. We don't want to have to deal with the difficulties that might be presented to us, but you want to make sure, since you've made this smart decision to have an interest, to be enthusiastic about precious metals, that you are prepared, okay? That you are ready. Timing will be everything. I will caution you. The price of silver is $1,000 an ounce. The price of silver is $90 an ounce. The price of silver is $55 an ounce. Whatever it might be, I would caution against making any all or nothing type decisions. Meaning, you say, you know what, silver hit $65 an ounce. I'm selling it all. I'm cashing out, right? No. Just like I recommend that any moves you make into buying silver, you dollar cost average in. You can also dollar cost average out. I had a friend who was a top trader at a company in St. Louis called A.G. Edwards. You may have heard of them. Prestigious. I think now they're owned by Wells Fargo. They got in trouble during the financial crisis. Anyway, he was a top trader there. They actually, back in the day, would give him big sums of money and say, do whatever you want with it. And he was a great guy. I was talking to him one time about a stock I owned that had gone up, and I'm like, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it. He had the bet. This is a golden nugget of financial advice, and this relates to anything you buy that goes up, 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 up in value. His name was John, and John said, Ron, here's what I would recommend. Sell half. So sell half of the stock you own that's gone up and hope that you're wrong, meaning you cash out half of it and you hope that that was a bad decision and that the other half that you hold on to continues to go up. Because imagine this. Imagine in the next 6 months, the price of silver shoots up to $65 an ounce. $80, let's say $80, which is a nice round number. The next 6 months, okay, 6 months from today, right? July, I can't even do, what's that going to be? January, the end of January, if I got that correct? We're sitting with $80 silver, and you're like nervous because you're like, I've got all this silver. I bought it for $23 an ounce. It's $80 an ounce. I'm cashing out. Ain't nothing wrong with that, okay? And now you got a bunch of unicorn fart dust. Congratulations. Hopefully you're converting it into something else that's real, but nonetheless, you cash it all out. And then over the next 6 months, you watch it go from 80 to 200 or 80 to 120. Or who knows, if things really get crazy, 80 to what Bix Weir and those guys say, 600. Then you're like, oh, but if you'd only sell half of it, cash out half at 80 and keep the other half, right? Well, you know what? Hope you're wrong and hope it does go up. And if it does go down, well, then you can say, well, at least I cashed out half. Now it's only worth 40, but I paid 20 for it anyway. And I love silver and I want to keep my silver. Sell half and hope you're wrong. Just an idea, not giving financial advice, just a broad concept on a way that you can manage your money, your assets, especially when they shoot through the roof. Another thing, outside of silver and gold, in terms of being prepared, okay, is a skill, something you can offer other people. Are you a handyman? Are you handy? Do you know about electricity? Do you know about, all of us have some skill that we could develop, because if things get really hairy, you're going to want to have something of value that you can offer other people. All right? And that's a very key thing to remember. Final point I want to make on the skyrocketing silver and gold, the skyrocketing silver and gold scenario is keep an eye on the silver to gold ratio. Right now, it costs about 82 ounces of silver, maybe 85, somewhere in the 80s of silver to get 1 ounce of gold. If you're a heavy silver stacker, right, we could see the silver to gold ratio get to 40 to 1, get to 50 to 1. If it got to 40 to 1 right now, today, we would have $50 silver. If it got to 20 to 1, and there are people that say it could get to 20 to 1, that would be, if my math is correct, what, $75 silver? No, $100 silver. Some people even say that it could get to parity at some point, because they're looking at the fact that there's more gold above ground right now, hidden in your basement. I know what you're up to, right? Hidden in your backyard, under a tree, hidden somewhere in a vault. There's more gold. Some people say twice as much gold above ground as there is silver. I don't even know the number for platinum. Maybe Neil can chime in on that if he's read anything or knows anything about that. But the point is, you can consider, if you hold a lot of silver or you hold a lot of platinum, when those ratios come more back to normal, right? Because I think it's 17 to 1 silver to gold in the Earth's crust. Converting some of the other metals, converting some silver into gold, converting some platinum into gold, right? And then play it back and forth. A lot of people do that, and it works very, very well for them.